What is Hamas? It's a movement to defend a government of Gaza with a military wing to defend the people of Gaza against Israeli aggression. And the fact that they broke out into part of Israel for a day is they made it to the greatest hoo-ha in the world. They broke out, which means they're in prison. If people break out of a prison, bad things happen. Yeah? You put them in a prison, you've locked them in a prison, you treat that prison. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Auschwitz was a concentration camp. The Germans systematically killed people in that concentration camp. They didn't engage in bombing campaigns inside Auschwitz against the people who were there. They didn't drop bombs on them, slaughter them, tell them to move from one corner, move to the next corner, move to the next corner, and while they're on the road, blow them up and kill them. That's what Israel's been doing, in front of everybody's eyes. This is not a secret, this is what's been happening in front of our eyes. And the government and Keir Starmer have been supporting it to the hilt. That's the reality. This is who our government and our opposition is. Barbarians cloaking themselves in parliamentary bullshit. Cloaking themselves in a democratic flag when they're actually barbarians and murderers. That's the reality of those who are in power in our society. And they were quite happy, don't forget, during the lockdowns, to lock everyone at home, to imprison those who protested, to force vaccinations on care workers, to threaten to force the NHS workers, those who we tracked as heroes one day. The next day they were called plague rats for not taking experimental gene therapies that could have killed them. That's what they said. I remember people who were working in the NHS coming to me at Speaker's Corner and telling me, I'm about to lose my job if I don't take the vaccine. I don't want to take the vaccine. I had a friend of mine told me, he was talking to nurses a couple of days ago, who were administering the jabs. But when it came to the story, you must vaccinate the children, suddenly they started to refuse. And they thought, I can't do this. In all good conscience, I can't jab a little child with an experimental vaccine for a disease which they have no chance of dying from, no chance of serious injury from. Why are we vaccinating these children? Because Big Pharma wanted the sales of their brand new product which they could sell to the whole world, not just for COVID, but for all sorts of illnesses. That was the idea. We've got a new tech, brand new technology, just like a Tesla car, and it's called the mRNA vaccine. And we can make mRNA for cancer, mRNA for flu, mRNA for COVID, mRNA for meningitis, mRNA, and we can knock them out on a computer in a couple of days. That's why mRNA was pushed by these people. They are drug pushers. Anybody seen a story about the Sackler family? The Sackler family in America, for decades, from the late 1990s, was selling opioids as pain cures. They said pain is the biggest problem. You had 400,000 people die during the lockdown period, in the 2 years of lockdown. 400,000, average age about 35, died in America, in the United States, from the opioids sold by the Sackler family to the population. They got people addicted to opioids, and then these people were snorting them and dropping down dead like flies. Hundreds of thousands of people killed by these drugs, sold by major drug companies. Last week, Pfizer agreed to pay a fine, an out-of-court settlement of $250 million US for a drug they were selling. In a pound shop they were selling it. It was called Zantac. Some of you might have taken it. Zantac. It was for acid reflux. They sell them, or they used to sell them in the shops. There was a class action taken on behalf of 70,000 people in the United States. They were paid $250 million in one single region of America. I think it was Delaware, but I'm not sure. Delaware or Colorado. 70,000 people. because Zantac, which they sold to cure or to relieve acid reflux, causes cancer. Causes cancer. Did they care? They couldn't give a shit because they sold their drug and they made their profits and they move on. Having paid a little bit of money in compensation, they move on to the next drug. That is the history of Big Pharma. That's the reality of Big Pharma. And that's the reality of the people who call themselves politicians who are in the pay of these big businesses that control the world. So that is what the reality of power is in our society.